Drunk off Chris. Back in this thing one more again. Cool. Back with another episode, y'all. Street Academy podcast, where we keep one foot in the academy and one foot in the street. And bro, I like when you do this, you do that.
When I did that. Oh, I gotta do that. I did it in the last one. Yeah. I
thought you was gonna do it, but you didn't do it.
I was. Okay.
Yeah, you do it every time. I always keep that part in there. Yeah. Back at it one more. Street Academy podcast. So we got our first what you call it? Our first listener request. Yeah, we got a request for an episode. So for all y'all who listening, for all y'all, we appreciate everybody who's been supporting, people who've been watching.
Sure.
I've been getting a lot of really good feedback.
Your shirt looking real crispy. That white shirt looking
super
real
crisp.
Ooh.
Yours.
Oh, word?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Let me see. What did I do? Because I'm still using this camera. Probably.
No, I said your shirt. Your shirt.
Oh, the shirt looking. Oh,
like you've been using OxyClean.
Yeah, like fresh out the package.
Yeah, that looks like a fresh out of the package shirt.
Yes.
In my white tee.
You got that quarantine fresh.
Right. Taking it back to 2000. What was that? 2005 when that song came out? 6 something.
Something like that. You know, that's like old school music now. That's crazy.
Super old.
No, that's considered old school.
Because we're older now.
Wow.
And the old people clubs are our clubs.
Correct. Listen, I will hit a 2-step in an old person club today if they were open.
Well, that's our music now.
So the worst thing was I went to Spellhouse Homecoming
when?
It was last year.
Was that the year that Spellhouse and Clark fell on the same year?
No, that was the year before, but that was lit. That was
my goodness.
That was amazing. I'm
I
like,
had
why
a ball. I had a ball.
Yes.
Amazing.
That was the best.
Man, I wish I had gone to Spellman.
Yeah, it was.
Or Clark.
It was
Just
because
come on to the homecoming and enjoy the festivities.
I'm gonna come with you next year.
You should. Yeah, mm-hmm. It was good. I went this year, and I forgot where I was going. I was walking up somewhere, and the DJ, you know, it's set up so it's just like everybody got their own little like DJ like spots. Mm-hmm. And so I went through. It was like the Alphas, and then next to the Alphas, it was like another little party going on. And so the DJ was spinning, and so he started playing "Give It to Me." Give me that funk, that sweet, that nasty, that good shit. Mm-hmm. And so you know, I'm like, oh man, this is my joint. You know, I'm doing my thing. I'm doing my 2-step.
Oh no!
And right after that, he cut it off, and he was like, what did he say? He say, so that was for the old school, and now we gonna play. Da-da-da-da. And I'm like, that was my era. So, it was like that was for the old school. I see y'all, and then he started playing Lil Baby or something, and I was like,
dang, we're that now.
I don't feel
it.
Like you really just took my joy away just now. Like
yeah,
I'm sitting here grooving the J, but it's all good. We gotta accept it. Anyway.
Aging is beautiful, yeah.
It's a beautiful thing.
Aging is a
beautiful
thing.
It's beautiful. We gotta
celebrate that.
We gotta embrace it because people out here not making it to their ages.
Not at all.
For real. Mm-mm. So yeah, we gotta make sure we grateful. That's the worst when you in church and your ringtone go off. And it's like,
who that butt chicks? Who that butt chicks?
Yo, I remember being in a staff meeting one year. This is when I was teaching, and this old teacher, her ringtone went off, and it was "Tempted to Touch." Do y'all remember that song?
Wow,
tempted to touch.
I need you so much. Yeah, something like that.
Yes.
Oh, I love that. I'm glad she was still getting her groove on. Yes.
I was
just like Jada was trying to get her groove back.
Oh,
hey.
I mean,
Oh,
August Alsina releasing his song today, his entanglement song.
yeah.
Basically saying that
I
she just
didn't.
basically
I
just
didn't
saying
hear the
she wanted
song.
a youthful pipe. That was pretty much what it seemed like.
I didn't hear the song, but I did read the lyrics. And
Yeah,
I
man.
clutched my pearls.
I mean,
Ooh,
Rick Rossberg's coming out with the
The extreme clarity.
Jaded and the Willow. He was playing. I was like, okay, Ricky Renzel, man.
yes.
Yeah.
It's like, oh,
Listen,
oh,
I was like, okay, entanglements. We here
ooh,
with
ooh.
listen. I mean, we want to go there. I mean, how
It
y'all feel
flows
about
with the subject. It flows with the
it?
subject.
It does, and we are gonna get into
Do you want to just pose what the question was?
well, no, because it don't really have anything to do with entanglements, but it does have to do with
But
relationships. So we're
oh,
gonna
okay.
do this, and then we'll go into we actually had one of our fans of the podcast gave us a suggestion for an episode, so we decided to make this episode part of that suggestion. So for those who have subscribed, if you're one of the listeners and you watch the podcast, you're interested, um, feel free to let us know what you want us to talk about, and we'll see if we can throw it in there. So we want y'all to be a part of Street Academy podcast. So yeah, entanglements, Jada, Will, August.
Whew.
How y'all feel?
Yeah, but don't make me start this one. I'm just trying to.
Oh, but we
flow.
want you to.
You the messy one.
I
Jackie
am the
is the
messy.
messy one.
I love mess. I love mess. Let me say I'm, I don't wish mess on anyone.
Right.
But if the mess comes across if the mess
funny.
comes across my timeline, I will click. So
Oh, this is Jackie. Scrolling. Is that the mess? Oh.
Click.
let's see. Man. So what was crazy is, of course, I listened to August's interview first. Okay, what was actually crazy was that somebody had said something about Red Table Talk, and I went like looking for whatever they were talking about. This is before the whole August Alsina thing popped up. When I went to the history, for some reason his episode popped up. I watched this interview with August Alsina on the Red Table Talk, and then a few days later, I see this interview with August Alsina and Angela Yee, and him talking about this affair that he had with Jada. I was very surprised that Jada took it to the Red Table Talk. And I will say that the Red Table Talk was underwhelming, because so much of the critique was that she took advantage of this man who needed help and was looking to her as like someone who could help him, as a mentor. And she took advantage of the situation. So people have described it as predatory. It's not pedophilia because they were of age, but I would say that it was kind of predatory, So I wanted her to address some of that, and so I was disappointed that she didn't. But I'm not gonna be in anybody else's relationship, even though I love the mess. But your relationship is yours. But what I am gonna say is, if you are going to entangle yourself with another, make sure y'all are on the same page about who gets to be part of the entanglement audience.
Entanglement, yeah.
Because I really do feel for Jada Smith and her family, because this is obviously not something that they wanted to get out there. This is not something that they wanted to be doing cleanup on. And so she did Red Table Talk, and then here he comes with this entanglement song, which raises his public profile, but it makes Jada Smith just look bad.
I thought the song was kind of tacky a little bit. I didn't think.
Yeah, I think so. That's in poor taste.
Yeah, I didn't think the song was necessary, but
It seemed a little too opportunist. It'd be different if somebody else made the song, like kind of as a spoof.
Right.
But I don't know if he was also trying to use music as expression in this sense, in a way to cope. Because I mean, the truth is, like you said, he was, like you said, Jackie, like he was a young man who needed help.
Right.
He was trying to process, and then this whole thing happened, and so it seems like he is still processing clearly and using music as his method to process. But I do think, I mean, it even goes to how we were talking about that who was it, the J. Cole song, and it's just like he used music to process something that he probably could have processed privately. And so then it makes you question like how genuine the processing is, or how authentic it is, when it's put into a public forum. When if it's just like you let things cool down for like a week, you probably might not create this type of thing, you know. So that is, to me, having the song, it does make it a little questionable. To be like, okay, it's like entanglements and she wanted this, and it's all, typically freaky or whatever. So it's like, I do feel like, because I think Jada Pinkett Smith prides herself on authenticity and having hard, raw conversations, the universe would have it that it will require the same of her, the same way that she requires it of others. It came about where it's just like, okay, this is your opportunity to do the same. And I think what we saw actually was her not being as authentic as we would have expected her, because it's like, because it's like in this instance, like Will had to be her Jada, which was like entanglement, nigga, entanglement. Is that really the word you want to use?
Really?
What are you talking about?
Really?
Okay, it was a relationship, I guess. So it's like I think that accountability and authenticity is an interesting thing, and I also think it's interesting when it speaks to how we can hold other people accountable for something and not hold ourselves to that same type of thing. Because I think it would have been easy to take another woman to task about that same issue if that had happened, and to be like, there was this young man who, he needed help and he came to your family. Tell us how this happened. How did you fall into this? Like, I could imagine that kind of passion coming from her, but then it's just like, I think it's why it's so important for us to look at ourselves, and to be critical as we are with other people, to be critical.
Amber. Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. I don't know what happened.
Yeah.
I just think it's important. I think it's important for us to hold ourselves accountable and to be critical. If we're going to be critical with others, use that same type of lens on ourselves. I think that's important. And I feel like she did not come to the table with as much criticalness as she typically comes at all.
I have this question though, and it's like, yes, the Smiths are public figures because of their profession. So, we all know who they are. Is it up to us to hold them accountable for their indiscretions and whatever other actions that they do that ordinarily would be like part of their private life? But is it up to us now, because they are public figures, to engage in holding them accountable? And people draw correlations between R. Kelly. I think that situation is quite different than this one. But I get the sentiment of holding people accountable for transgressions that they have committed. So that's a question I put to y'all.
I don't think it's our job to hold them accountable. Because to be honest with you, I think that the first part of that red table talk, I think they was lying. I don't think they was separated. I don't think they was. As soon as he said that, I was like, "Let's go, publicist. Good job, spin. We were already separated. You were living here, man. Whatever, man. I don't believe that. Nah. I believe that they had an understanding. They probably was going through something. They probably was, but I just don't believe it. You know what I'm saying? But I just think that was a great spin, because now it kind of softens the blow. Like, oh, well, they were separated, so it kind of gives a little bit more, credence and understanding as to why Jada would engage in a relationship with another guy. So yeah, I mean, I don't think it's our job to hold them accountable because they could be telling us anything. It could be a whole
It's true.
different story, and we just don't know. You know what I'm saying? So I'm just like, you know what? To me, it was pure entertainment. To me, it was great. I was watching. Here's the thing. One of my favorite podcasts with Kev on stage and that chick Angel. Here's the thing.
Mm.
And they were saying how on their timeline people was like, why y'all in their business? Who cares about Will and Jada? Y'all still talking about them? Why y'all talking about them? Nigga, we ain't got nothing to do.
We
Doing?
just here
We've
talking.
been at the
How
house
many
for about 300 days.
how many Netflix movies can you watch? Like
It's
Kevin
true.
Stage was like, I just watched a German movie with Japanese subtitles. Like I'm done. I've seen every movie
That's funny.
on Hulu,
Oh my.
Netflix. We needed something. We needed this. And Will Smith is what is he? The blockbuster summer hit.
King.
He been
Yes.
giving us summer hits since Independence Day.
Yes.
He fulfilled.
Oh wow.
He gave us a summer hit.
Mhm.
You understand me? That thing was entertaining, boy. I'm talking about.
Man, I want to clarify something. Y'all said that I'm the one who loves mess.
Yeah, I think
John.
we have a new. I think
That's
we have a
it.
winner.
John loves mess.
Listen,
I think we have a winner.
there on my couch, just watching that thing, like
It was juicy. I can't even lie. It was juicy because we knew. It's
hey,
all
y'all
because
don't,
we
y'all
knew.
don't look at my case. It's horrible. But anyway,
Because we knew though, because when he put out that birthday message to her some while ago, and everybody was like, why was this birthday message was super super beautiful, and then Wills was like, yeah homie, something like that. Do y'all remember when that first came out? Like a while ago. I don't know if it was like 2 years ago, maybe it was like 2 years ago, but I remember it was like a thing because they were like, who is this? That's when I first I was like, who is this August Alsina guy that she's like, who's like saying like, you're this, you're that, you're this, Jada, you're all this. And it was just like, it was a really, really beautiful and deep birthday message to her.
Oh.
And so then everybody started speculating back then that what is going, like, this is real intimate. And then it's like, you look at Will Smith's message and it's like, happy birthday, bro, kind of type of vibe. It was a very different vibe.
yeah.
And so I remember thinking like,
See,
yo,
look at
something
mess.
happened with
Look
them.
at mess.
Yes.
I
I
told
remember-
y'all I will click.
And I remember my sister and I were talking about it back then. We were like, it's no way you talking all of that and something else isn't happening. It just was a little too intimate and beautiful.
Okay.
Yes.
All right.
Yeah, it was a very like it
Save
was
that for
very
later.
deep. It was very deep and beautiful. And it was like so I didn't find it too surprising when this happened. I'm like, oh, okay, they had an actual relationship. It makes sense. And so then for them to actually confirm it, it's like, oh, this is crazy. And I think again, I feel like people jump so hard to say, oh, stop talking about this stuff. The internet is crazy when it comes to that. It's just like people want to talk about it, and then the next second they're like, I'm tired of this. Why are we talking about this? It's just like because it matters. Because Will Smith matters to us. Because Will Smith and Jada matter
We're not
to us.
talking
They're
about
an
Black
example
Lives
of a
Matter.
black.
We need to be talking about. We're talking about both.
We're
Okay?
talking about it's all connected.
Yes.
It's black community couples. It's like there are Ruby D and Billy. That's them for us, right? There's this couple that we look to, and we're like we care about what's happening with them. They have these 2 children that are prominent that we've watched grow up. So it's just like it matters to the black community. We're not just gonna like get this kind of news and just like go back home. Like it's just it's fascinating. Okay. And we also want to hope for their marriage. And even though people will say, well, we don't need to be invested in what's happening in celebrities' lives and things. And it's just like, I understand that I don't necessarily think hashtag relationship goals is a good idea ever because every relationship is different. And yet examples are important. Seeing different ways of being are important. Exposure is important. And so people look to celebrities as role models. And I understand why they do that. And so then to your question, Jackie, do we hold these people accountable? I remember a quote like from, I don't know if he's since changed his idea, but Lil Wayne said a long time ago that he's just like,
No
I'm
profit.
not I'm not, gonna be like, I'm not holding, basically he didn't want to be held accountable for any music that he ever produced. And he was like, y'all are responsible for like what your children listen to, blah blah. And I felt like that was actually a very irresponsible way of thinking about his fan base. It's just like, look, it's true, you're not responsible for these children buying your albums. Clearly you're not responsible for that yet. What messages are you putting out there? What is your, like, you have to take ownership for your impact on people sometimes, like, to a degree. You can't just act as though you're just a complete silo that operates by itself. That's just not honoring the way that this entire world and universe has been designed for us to be completely interconnected. So don't say that. That's just irresponsible and not there. And it's very unartistic, actually. So there has to be some levels of accountability, I think, there in some way. So but what I think in the case of Will and Jada, because they have chosen to make their lives public in some ways, and because Jada has like created this platform of authentic conversation and having the tough conversations, it's like them not holding themselves accountable would be it would be raise all of our eyebrows. It's like, how is that? Like, we can only hold you as accountable as you have held yourself and as you have held others. And so I feel like in their instance, it's a very particular case where it's just like, okay, we got to hold you accountable for at least explaining or in some way. But at the same time, if they chose not to, they have the right to also not tell us anything, because they don't owe it to us to explain their marriage and what's happening in their marriage at all. Now, the fact that you said like people are like comparing it in any way to R. Kelly, that's insane, because it's not predatory in the same way at all. Those people were underage, and August Alsina was not underage. Yes, he was, I guess, he was in a place where he needed healing, and he was not, he might have been struggling with some other types of illness, which you could say, well, that reduces your faculties, and that means that this person is in a vulnerable state, and someone took advantage of that. And so maybe vulnerability in that sense is equated with younger age. I still think those parallels are very hard to make. So I wouldn't want to put her in the place where she's like, okay, she's predatory in that same way. She ended up, I will say, like, she ended up not using discretion at all. This was like, he was older, but he was vulnerable, and she did take advantage of the situation. Not that I don't think that she was intending to either. And that's why she called it an entanglement, because it was not something that she was trying to do. But at that moment where you're like, this could go left, she didn't stop it. And that's where it's just like, but she was also in a state too. So it's like, can I blame her for having that little moment? She still has her marriage at the end of the day. Her husband is still there. So it's just like, was it that bad of an idea? Both of them were going through things. He clearly, Will did some stuff too that ain't nobody going to be talking about, because I don't know, maybe he got some NDAs out there with some people, and she never got that NDA with August. So maybe it all works out. She had her fling. Will has his flings. They still together. They still can be the couple that we love and model ourselves after. I don't know.
And I'm sure that wasn't her first, and it probably won't be her last. Same with Will. I'm sure he's had his moments where he has entangled himself with another. But I think this point about having these like role model couples kind of takes us maybe to the question that the listener submitted, which was that, as Black folks, we hope for like these shows of Black love. Like I think of, Will and Jada, Martin and Gina, Whitley and Dwayne, like there are these like love stories. And obviously like Will and Jada are real people, and the other ones that I named are fictional, but we just have this hope of Black love in the Black community, and what that means for strong Black communities, Black families, like what having a successful union between two Black people signifies to the rest of us. So I think that's why folks just root for them, because we want proof that it can happen.
Yeah.
Um, the the other thing, going back to what Jackie was saying about what the listener brought up. So another thing about this entanglement and Will and Jada and August and everybody is that they also had us thinking broader about relationships.
Yeah.
More people are starting to say, okay, what does a non-monogamous relationship look like, right? Is there room to explore polyamory, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is there room to explore thinking outside of the traditional ways of relationships, right?
Mm-hmm.
Where it's just two
Mm-hmm.
people. Um, is it too much to get two people to just say we're only going to be with each other and love each other with all our heart, soul, and mind for all of these years, for 30, 40 years? At some point, a person can only give so much. And can we leave room for exploring these other ways of understanding connection, and whether it be physical connection, emotional, sexual, and does it all have to be in one person, or can
Mm-hmm.
you know can we see what it looks like with others and then come back to that person, or like just thinking broader outside of that, I think, is another thing that the whole entanglement, it brought that conversation to the forefront in a way that didn't seem as taboo as it has
Mm-hmm.
been in the past. Because
Mm-hmm.
typically before that, when people would say stuff like that, people was just like, nah, that's crazy. That's that crazy stuff. And that's, nah, we ain't doing that. You know what I'm saying? Nah, I can't have nobody else with my man, with my woman, whatever. Um, but I'm starting to see conversations now like, oh, well, maybe what would that look like? Is this something we can, entertain? So that was another interesting part of this whole
And
entire.
it reminds me of this post from the Sensible Sexpert. I follow them on Instagram. I think her name is Dr. Wendasha or something like that. Let me see, Wendasha Jenkins Hall. Really interesting. She had a post recently, I think probably because of some of this, that talked about the 5 varieties of ethical non-monogamy. And I encourage everyone to read it because I'm like, I've never heard of these things. And so like there's polyamory, and then there's like the open polyamory being the practice of it openly engaging in consensual sexual and or romantic relationships with multiple partners. Then there's an open relationship where where you are given permission from your partner to engage in other outside sexual relationships. Then there's something called like polyfidelity, where there might be a group of people who within a group of people, they are like their sexual relationship is restricted to just this particular group. So it's just, which I think that's interesting. And then something called cuckolding. I don't even know how to pronounce that. But a fetish or kink in which a person gets turned on by watching their partner have sex with someone else. So in other words, there's just so many different ways that people are, I think, challenging convention, and I think that's what's happening right now in our culture. And I think that um, the Will and Jada relationship is beginning to like push that conversation a little bit more, because it's already been happening, and now more people are saying, hey, I think they're saying, hey, I'm not sure if monogamy is actually working for me. They've seen their parents' relationships end in divorce. They've seen their like friends and loved ones relationships not play out the way that they had expected. And so they're like, so does this monogamy thing even really work? And so if it doesn't, or if I'm feeling like I want to try an alternative, people are like, okay, so what are the different ways that I can restructure this thing so that I can have, I don't even want to say it's the maybe it's too simple to say have my cake and eat it too, but to say like have everything that I want in this life, you know?
Honestly, I really wish that Will and Jada would have addressed that directly and head on. I mean, we have all known for years and heard the rumors about their open marriage. And, they deny it. And I think this would have been like a perfect opportunity for them to be like, hey, like, this is how we structure our marriage. Like, it works for us. It might not work for other people. but I think they found a pretty traditional way out um, of explaining what was going on. I mean, it's not far-fetched to think of people separating and then coming back together. Like, that happens all the time, every day. But and we hear about it, but what we don't hear about all day, every day is, I have an open marriage, and so I get to have consensual relationships with other people. My partner does as well. And that's how we kind of like live our life. And I think that you're right as far as there are so many examples for our generation where we have seen monogamy just not be successful. So the idea that of exploring other options other than just monogamy for the rest of our lives makes sense to a lot of folks.
Grateful.
I hate that song.
Really?
Damn.
It does not make sense. Is gratefulness flowing from my heart, the issues of my heart, gratefulness. It's not a complete sentence. It just doesn't make sense.
I never thought about it.
So I'm assuming you
Amber.
like.
Listen, I have not met a good church choir bop that I do not like. I love a good squall. Come on and scream, do a run.
You know the other song
I love all of it.
I Need You to Survive.
I was about to say that one too.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I've
the
never
most
cared for that one.
melodyless song.
I can't stand it. I Need You to Survive.
Yeah, that one is.
I need you.
Do you think it's because it got played out so quickly?
It's the song is in unison, and I think it's because the song is in unison, which I think they probably did to make it easier for people to just sing collectively, which I get. But it doesn't. The melody is not pretty to me.
Yeah.
And I think it's one of those ones that is supposed to feign, like, this sense of unity, when it's just like, just because you sing that don't mean you mean it.
Yeah. I didn't feel nothing out of that song.
I didn't feel the feeling. And it's just like, you're trying to say it because you want to feel like y'all have some kind of symbiotic relationship, especially church. Churchiness is next to fakiness. And so it's just like, it's this world where a lot of people are pretending to be close. They call each other sister and brother, and it's just not the truth. And so you have a song like, I need you, you need me. A lot of people don't need any of the people in church. A lot of times they're the worst ones. Sorry, that's a sidebar.
I was gonna say, this sounds like another episode.
Look at Jack and Jay like, have you been hurt?
No,
who hurt you? That's the question. Who hurt you?
No, I was on some other stuff. I forgot that when they had like some tech stuff set up, and then it started beeping. So I was like, let me make sure that it doesn't start playing songs like it did last time. Which it would not be. Yeah, it would not be those.
It wouldn't be those gospel.
No, it would be something completely separate. For sure.
And then I think to even push it further, we always got to add race in there somewhere. So I think to even push it further again, to have this conversation about, like, what do these new, millennial, post-millennial marriages, relationships look like? But still the same. Sometimes marriages from back in the day or questions from back in the day still pop up, right? So we had a listener asked the question or wanted us to bring up this idea of race, right, and relationships, and particularly, can you be pro-black and be in an interracial relationship, right? Can you be pro-black and be in an interracial marriage, right? Some people ask the question, can you preach black and sleep white? Preach black and sleep some other racial group. Does that take away from what it is that you pushing for? And I think about when your boy, Childish Gambino, Donald Glover, when he dropped that "This Is America" joint, shocked the world. Everybody stopped in their tracks. Did you see when he did the woo and breaking it down, and when he did this symbol and what that mean and da 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 da? And then like the very next day, it was, oh, he got a white baby mama or a non-black wife or whatever, something. And they was like, oh, he just, this don't, it didn't, now what he put forth didn't hold any meaning, or didn't hold as much meaning because of his relationship with the non-black woman, right? I remember when Best Man Holiday came out, and everybody was raving about Best Man Holiday and these beautiful black people and how they age so well, and you have these handsome black men and these beautiful black women and this black love all over the screen and talking about black love and black couples, black marriage, blah, blah, blah. But then in real life, like 3 of those black men was married to non-black women. And so I remember seeing a meme that said, chill out, ladies, it's just a movie. And then it showed like the Best Man Holiday. It showed the Best Man Holiday with all of them with the black actresses, and then the other picture below it was the black men with their real non-black wives. And it was like, relax, women, it's just a movie. I was like, damn. So it's like
shots. The shots are fired.
So
and art doesn't imitate life.
So we really do live in a world where while we are thinking through, monogamy and binary and gender and sex and all of these different things, for some reason race still hasn't caught up. I think people still are questioning race in relationships, even though we're how many years past Loving versus Virginia? You know what I'm saying? People still have that, you know what I'm saying? People still have that question. So I mean, what do y'all think? Can you be black, preach black, buy black, and sleep non-black?
Man, this question would be so much easier to answer if I didn't personally know a handful of black folks who like talk that talk and walk that walk and go home to their white spouse. Like, if I did not know these people personally, it would be so much easier to be like, no, you can't. Because I think about a number of, recognizable black folks who have white spouses, and their racial analysis on black issues is very lackluster. I mean, we just talked about Clarence Thomas, not too long ago, and it makes sense to me that he has a white wife. Given
does
his
he?
politics,
that makes sense. Yeah.
Given his politics, given what he shows that he values, like, it makes sense to me. He values whiteness. He has a white wife. It makes sense to me. But it definitely causes some dissonance when I think of folks who like are super genuine and authentic. It's not like their ideas and values around blackness and black liberation and black just blackness is not performative. It's super authentic. But then they have a white spouse. Like, I don't know.
Okay.
Well,
what's up? Talk to the people. Talk to the people.
Well then. I have a lot of thoughts. I'll just be honest and say, what kind of disclaimer do I want to give? Let's see. Okay, let's start by saying miscegenation, that's a problem. You can't just make it illegal for people to not marry based on the fact that you actually think one race is inferior. But that was why. It's just like, so the issue was that you think we're inferior. And so, and you think that you're protecting the white race. from being contaminated with our blood. And so that's why you felt like that you made that illegal, you made that wrong. And so that's not right. I think people should be able to legally marry whoever they want to, minus children. I don't believe in being able to marry children. I don't think you should be able to marry anybody. You shouldn't be able to marry a child. But outside of that, you should be able to marry anybody. Maybe not a super old person too, who can't speak for themselves, but whatever. Okay, well, and I'm thinking about somebody who might not be able to actually. It brings up the August thing too, like somebody who is like vulnerable or whatever. But whatever, for the most part, minus those specific things, you should be able to marry anybody. Okay. With that said, marriage is a political act, even if you don't want it to be, because it speaks to your politics. It speaks to what you care about. It speaks to the legacy that you intend to have in the world. It speaks to the type of what you think about wealth. It speaks to what you think about like resource allocation. It speaks to what you think about culture, because more than likely the expectations that you're going to have children, and then how are they going to behave in the world. I mean, when two people come together, it's a partnership. It's not just you alone, and so we have to acknowledge that, like, it's not just nothing's in isolation. You're in a context. You can't deny the culture that you're in. And if you're in America, you can't say that the race of your partner doesn't have some type of significance. It's going to have some type of significance. It's going to matter in your life. So even if we don't want it to be a political act, it's still a political act. So there's that. So if you are a person who has a strong perspective about Blackness and if you have a strong perspective about Blackness, I would assume that you would also have a strong perspective about the Black family and about the need for upholding the Black family and strengthening the Black family, because the Black family is a part of the Black community. And so, because I'm assuming if you care about Blackness and you care about Black people being free in America, then a part of that is the strengthening of the Black community, which means there's strengthening of the Black family. Now, does that Black family need to be the traditional nuclear family that we talk about? No, that's the whole issue with Black Lives Matter movement, why people were getting so much criticism. Well, have y'all seen that recently, how the Black Lives Matter movement has been getting criticism, namely because they didn't name men as a part of their, group of focus, and also because they were talking about the nuclear family, like we come against that traditional thing. And so it's just like, but the whole point is that you care about the Black family in some whatever form or whatever structure it's in. And so if you care about that, then you care about Black marriage, or you care about Black children being born into the world. So if you care about Black children being born into the world, and not to say that every Black couple needs to be married, but you care about Black love, then to not be living that out will raise questions. It necessarily raises a question that you have to expect to be able to answer. I think I personally, I cannot deny the fact that I have a complete double standard when it comes to interracial dating. When I see a Black man with a white woman, I feel I have a visceral response in a way that I do not have when I see a Black woman with a Black man. It is not the same to me, and I don't care.
White man, you mean?
I mean a Black woman with a white man, or any other type. I don't want to say any other type. A Black woman with a non-Black man and a Black man with a non-Black wife. Completely different responses. We could talk about that another time, I guess, but when I don't care who it is, honestly. When I see a Black man, when I see a Black,
sorry, I want to hear it, Amber. Like, what's the different reaction?
Well, I know. I feel like I'm talking. I feel like I'm talking straight for like 5 minutes because I'm like trying to like lay the foundation.
It's all good. It's all good.
But it's like I will. Okay, I'm gonna come back to that. But what I'm gonna say is because of the messaging around beauty norms and also how unfortunately how Black men have come for Black women so much in public, and because you have so many examples of it seeming like Black men hold white women specifically, or any non-Black woman, up as the pinnacle of beauty, or the pinnacle of elegance, or the pinnacle of like a behaved or a well-mannered woman, as opposed to the angry Black woman, as opposed to the attitudey Black woman, as opposed to the vulgar or the over-sexualized Black woman. All these different things. If he is in a relationship with a white or non-Black woman, and he has those ideals, he is, to me, a poor representation of a Black man. And he's one of the ones that's just like, I just want to give you away anyway, like, go ahead and go. And so I feel like that is typically, or what it seems like, have I had done a survey of Black men who have married or dated non-Black and white women? No, I have not. However, that rhetoric is very common, that it's not just that you fell in love or that you have chosen to be in love with this person, is that you are anti-Black woman. And because you're anti-Black woman, that's why you have gone there. That is what I've seen typically in the stories. It wasn't because it was just, some love affair, or it wasn't because there was some, rationale based on availability. Because then if you go to the reverse situation, which is Black women who date or marry white or non-Black men, it's typically because it's just like, Black men are not available. They're not here, so this was not my first choice. And it's not because I believe that white men or non-Black men are more beautiful, are more tame, are more interesting, are smarter or whatever than Black men. It's just that I ended up being in love with this person, and now I have chosen this. Or it's because of an economic reason. Although some Black men will do that the same, because of economic advancement, they'll marry white or whatever. But typically it's not anti-Black man in the same way that it would be with Black men. So to me, that's why I feel it very differently, because I oftentimes want to see Black men supporting Black women, and I don't see that. I see it's just like, it's performative. It's the fact that it's just like, we love our Black women. And you're just saying that though, because your performance of relationship has nothing to do with us, And so it's like, you can celebrate Black love, you can celebrate a Black relationship, but that's just you. That's just, what do you call it? It's not footwork. When you just like, it's just speech, whatever. I forget the term. But it's like, I saw this post a long time ago that I'm pretty sure y'all probably saw too, but it's just like, I don't want to hear from Black men who talk about like uplifting Black women or Black family, but you don't want your daughters to look like them. You don't want your daughters to look like Black women, but you want to talk about Black women. And then you have this really weird obsession with Black men wanting their daughters to look like women that they're attracted to. Which comes in some ways from, how Kanye was talking about, the whole mutt test, the pool test, all that kind of stuff,
I miss that.
And it's just, that was a really long time ago, where he's just like, if your hair doesn't come out, if your hair doesn't, wavy or whatever when you come out of the water, then he don't want you. A lot of, unfortunately, Black men they obsess over this idea of their daughter looking like the women that they want to date, which unfortunately ends up being a lot of women who don't have more common Black features. So it's because it's anti-Black woman, which I think is a problem. And I don't think a lot of Black men want to be honest about, like, well, it's not just because I just chose to love this person. It's because there might be something that you don't like about Black women that then you're enacting in your relationship. I know I said a whole lot. And that ain't even all of it. But I want to stop talking so that y'all can talk. But what do y'all think about some of what I said? Well, I know I said, yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, I agree with you. I think that, I don't have a different look at Black men being in a relationship with a non-Black woman and a Black woman being in a relationship with a non-Black man. I don't look at that differently, but I can understand why Black women will, because of what you said, because there's a history of anti-Black womanness inside of the reason why a lot of Black men will do that.
Right.
Wherein with Black women, I don't necessarily hear that as the reason. I don't hear that they're anti-black men. Well, I have
in some cases,
yeah,
but not nearly as much.
but it's not that long of a history that I have seen. But what I will say, just to put it in context, and because we are Street Academy, we try to incorporate research and different things into the conversation. I do want to say that um, when we talk about interracial couples, especially interracial marriages, it's actually not as likely in America as we think it is. I was looking at the research today, and it was saying that 93% of married couples are people that marry within their race in America.
Is that specific to Black, or that's just everybody?
That's just across the board. That's just across racial groups. And then when you look at the racial groups that are more likely to marry inside their race, you have white people who are the most likely of all racial groups in America to marry inside their race. And then right after that, you have Black people, right? And Black men, out of all minority men, are the most likely to marry within their race.
I love that statistic. Thank you.
Than any other man of color in America, right? So, and actually, Asian women are the most likely to marry outside of their race than any demographic, right, in the United States. So that kind of puts it in perspective that this idea around interracial relationships and maybe some of the anti, each other rhetoric that comes about. Hopefully, it kind of puts it into context that it's not as prevalent as sometimes it may seem. However, I will say though that Black men are more likely to marry outside of their race than Black women. So there is there is that. I want to say Black men marry Black women at like 87%, and Black women marry Black men at like 91% or something. It is higher. And so that is something that needs to be addressed. But Black men is out here marrying Black women. let's just say that. Now, Black men might be out here doing their thing with all different kinds, and
getting entangled with all these other ones.
Getting entangled. They might be getting their entanglement on, but when it's time to, regardless of what age they do it, whether they do it early or, they wait till they done entangle with everybody else and then they finally settle down. They finally get Jada and they go on and wrap it on up. You know what I'm saying? But regardless, niggas is marrying, like we marrying Black women. But I do think it is important to address what it is that you're talking about. And unfortunately that's something that we have to constantly, bring up. Why is it that we have had these and especially when you're talking about wanting our daughters to look like these women that we value, right? Or that we see as beautiful. And oftentimes it's within this Eurocentric view. Because even with those statistics, we still aren't talking about the colorism within it. And I don't know if there's statistics
right.
The colorism, right? Around, do Black men tend to choose lighter skinned women or women that have this color hair or whatever, right? So I don't know if that's been done, but that's something to consider because that still plays a role in how race dictates, what we see as beautiful, right? What we see as valuable, right? So that was just my response to what you said. Jackie, I know you was gonna say something.
Jackie.
I thought you was early. I thought I had cut you off.
I may have. I got so engrossed in the conversation that I forgot that I was. I was like, "This is a great show."
It's a good show. I need
what?
Hey, I enjoy knowledge. I like media.
And so we can't deny that. We can't deny the power of media and the power of celebrity. As much as we would like it to not be as strong of a factor, is a factor. And now with the internet, and now that you can get even more into people's lives, you see that. So I'll be absolutely honest. People lose credit. They absolutely lose credit. Black men lose credit when I do see that they are married to a non-Black woman, but then I do a little investigation because now I'm interested in their personal lives, like I shouldn't be, because I probably shouldn't, but it matters to me because, you know, I want to see that public and that private life syncing up in a way that feels authentic. And I'm also desperate to see, and I'll say desperate, I'll use that. I'm desperate to see Black love. I'm desperate to see Black relationships work. I want to see that, and I want to know that it's out there because I didn't have enough examples of it growing up. I didn't see enough examples even now of couples actually working out in like that strong Black family. Like I want to see that. And so it's like, I want to see this Black man with a Black woman to have Black children, and it's just beautiful in a Black family. So I want to see that, right? And so when I see that, you know, like a Childish Gambino has this white woman, I didn't go further because I saw some people say, well, he was nerdy. Didn't nobody want that nerd? Didn't no Black girl want the little nerdy
That's
Black
another
dude?
to the conversation.
So it's just like,
That's what he said. That's what he put out there.
And honestly, that was enough of an argument for me to be like, they're probably right. So I was like, I'll keep going.
Don't nobody want you.
I was like, I'll keep going. But then you have people like the guy who plays, I don't know his name, the actor who plays Lawrence on Insecure, how his baby mama is white. And I was just like, or she's European, Eastern European, whatever the hell she is. And once I saw that, I was like, bro, I don't care how long y'all been dating. You around enough Black women to have had somebody. I don't know how you fell into that one, and so that bothered me. Then Michael B. Jordan with him being, you know, our Black Panther hero, not really our hero, but in a sense, like he was that for people. And then he's out here dating Snow Allegra, which I was just kind of like,
so are they dating for real?
I saw that somewhere that they were, but hell, I don't know enough. But
cute though. Is she white?
Damn,
is she white?
She's
all the way white.
She's one of those ambiguous people who is just like, you're, for all intents and purposes, you're not Black, it's what you are. And to me, what burns me even more are the women who are kind of Blackish but not quite, which really pisses me off, because then it's like, you do like Blackness in a way, but you don't really want it all the way, and that bothers me. And so to me, she's singing R&B-ish type music, and you have a career based on that. And so it's just like, she's Blackish but she's not Black. And so it's just like, then and it's not to say that like she can't have somebody, but it's just like, just pay attention to that. It's but I feel like what?
No, I was gonna say I acknowledge the difficulty of that particular position, because if you are an artist who capitalizes on Black art to make your money, then for you to have genuine relationships with Black community and Black folks, like, people are gonna be looking at you sideways. So even though that may be your desire to develop like these authentic relationships, people are gonna look at you and be like, you in here trying to steal because you're making money off of, you know, what we have established. And so, you know, it is what it is on that.
Yeah. And there's so much with that, because I just feel like, or like Luke Cage, for example. So you have the actor who played Luke Cage, and it was just like, damn, you too. So it continues to be the story of like, dang, who isn't, when it comes to that, when it comes to celebrities, when it comes to people who other people look to. And that's why it feels like, even though those stats, John, that you brought up are true, right? It doesn't feel like that.
That was the question. Now, Amber, thank you for the mind meld, because when you first brought up the stats, John, I was wondering the same thing about how the data speaks to race and class, because I wonder if 87% of Black men are marrying Black women, I wonder if it's like, is it like 95% of like middle income Black men, and like 50% of upper income Black men? Gotcha. So, you know, so I was definitely wondering how it broke down. when
I would
you
love to see that.
yeah, when you brought up that statistic. And, it's so funny because all of us went to HBCUs, and I'm sure all of us know at least one or two classmates who ended up marrying like a white
Yeah.
person.
Yeah.
And so those are the types of things that I really question, because I'm like, you are surrounded, especially me going to HBCU in Atlanta. I'm like, you surrounded by Black people, and you went to a Black school. Like, you left campus, hopped on MARTA, went to Buckhead, Sandy Springs. I don't even know where you went. Some place where MARTA doesn't even run.
Outside the perimeter.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
To end up, finding a white spouse. So I definitely think about how that particular dynamic plays out as well. It's one thing if you went to like a PWI,
Right.
around white people, you fall in love. But if you go to a school with 99.9% Black people and are moving in those circles.
That's also to assume that people find their spouses in college or at that age. And so when you step outside of that, you might not find yourself in a Black community. You might not find yourself with that type of beautiful melanated insulation, And so then when you get that out there into the working world, you might be out there on your own. You might get relocated to Idaho, just like Sydney was. But luckily, where did he go? Idaho, wherever
he
he
is
went.
in Idaho. Yeah,
but he was married before that. So, but imagine like the way that your work goes and the way that wherever life takes you, you might end up in a place where you find love outside of your race. And again, that to me is different than making a decision based on being anti the person within your race, and let me not make this conversation so heteronormative to just say it's like Black men and Black women, because I don't know how the stats break down when it comes to LGBTQ relationships, and I think that would be interesting too.
But what I do want to bring up, kind of going back to the economics piece, is that I do believe that who you marry is a political statement. And it's also a political statement because it's an economic statement for me.
Exactly, yeah.
Who you marry, to me, depends on where you put your money and where your wealth goes. Because as you are growing and as you are expanding in your career and as you're building wealth, when you pass away, your wealth is supposed to go to your spouse. And if your spouse is non-Black, then all that wealth that you spent your entire life building is now going into a community that does not reflect your own. So that's something to consider. You know what I'm saying? And we ain't even got to go all the way to when you die, but while you living, you know what I'm saying? Typically, where you decide to, who you decide to marry is also where you decide to put your money. You know what I'm saying? Because as you all may make, suggestions as to where you want to live, what community you want to live in, or who you want to hire to do certain things, or where you want to send your, what school you want to send your kids to. If you marry somebody that's within your race, then the likelihood of you wanting to live in a Black neighborhood or support Black businesses or hire a Black person to fix your roof or hire a Black person to do your yard or hire or send your kids to a Black school, it'll almost be second nature, because it's like, oh, well, we both Black, and same way with any other racial group. If you both Latinx, if you both Asian, if you both white, it's just kind of like the likelihood of you transitioning into that community is very much higher because both of y'all are the same racial group. But if you marry outside your race, then you have to have those upfront conversations about, okay, if we're of a different race, hopefully your spouse, if I'm Black, if you're Black and your spouse is white, but you really believe in pouring into the Black community and supporting Black owned businesses, then it's going to have to be an upfront conversation. You're going to have to consciously say, hey, baby, this is what we got to do. Hey, we need to live here. Hey, we need, you know what I'm saying? Like, those conversations have to be upfront. Those conversations have to be much more blatant, and it won't be, I don't know if it'll be as natural as it would be if y'all are of the same race. So I think those are the types of things that you kind of have to think about if you're in an interracial relationship, because who you marry definitely depends on where your money goes. And if you marry somebody of outside of your racial group, the likelihood of your money going into that community, I think, is going to increase. You know what I'm saying? You know, you know, if there's something that you want to get done, your wife might say, "Oh, I know somebody who I went to school with, or I know somebody who I work with, or I know somebody who in my family who's white. Oh, okay, well, we could just hire them." And that's a natural progression of a conversation. But it's like, the more and more you do it, it's like, oh, every time I'm spending money, it's always going outside of my people. You know what I'm saying? So you just have to make a conscious effort to make sure, hey, we married, we together, but we got to be putting money back into my people, back into my community. You know what I'm saying? And then again, when you think about where your money goes after you die and where your wealth, you know, whose community does your wealth go into, you have to make a conscious effort to be sure that your wealth is going into the Black community and the Black people's hands. So I just think that that's something that has to be considered when you talking about marrying out, you know, particularly marrying outside your race. Race matters. Race does matter. You know what I'm saying? We can't say that it doesn't. And to pretend like it doesn't is not doing us any favors. Like, we have to confront it, you know, straight ahead. Confront it. Hey, this means something, and race means something in a relationship. You know what I'm saying? But it doesn't necessarily have to be a hindrance. You know what I'm saying?
Right. It doesn't have to be. Yeah.
But again, but I do think that you have to be forthright and very explicit about saying, hey, we're going to be together, but also be sure that we have these open conversations about race and class and wealth and all this other kind of stuff, so that, you know, within our relationship, we are advancing, you know, equality and advancing the cause of liberation for Black people, or, you know, whatever racial group, you know, you're part of, advancing that cause in a positive way. So I don't know. I just think you got to be very, you know, upfront about that if that's what you want to do. And again, to everybody, make sure y'all check us out. Leave comments if y'all agree, disagree. Let us know what y'all think. And yeah, if y'all have anything y'all want us to talk about or discuss on Street Academy Podcast, just leave us a comment or just DM us, inbox us, let us know. And we will do our best to try to make sure we can fit that into one of our episodes. Any last minute thoughts?
Yeah, I just want to give a hell of a disclaimer. I just want to make sure that anyone who's listening to this must also know that there's so many caveats to everything that we've just shared.
Yes.
So even when it comes to this conversation, it's so much that I didn't get to, you know, add a little caveat on and say this, you can say this. And so even when it came, like I was speaking with the Snow Allegra thing, it's just like, I don't want to just say that Black people own R&B and hip hop and that it might not be a genuine expression from someone outside of our race, right? And so I don't want to just say like she's just profiting off of our stuff. That's not fair to her and her music, right? But it's just like, even that's a whole other conversation, whole other topic. So I just want to make sure that when people hear these conversations, they know, hear our discussions, know there's so many other factors that are there that we don't have the, you know, capacity to discuss in this framework. So take what we say also with a grain of salt.
And if there are other interracial, like if you're in an interracial relationship or interracial, if you're in an interracial relationship, feel free to leave a comment. Let us know if we missed the mark on something, if we, you know, if we hit the nail on the head, if there's a piece that we missed, let us know so we can have a conversation. Because again, this is a very large conversation. We're condensing it, and then we still got to edit this down to something the way y'all actually watch it. So it's going to be probably a lot of things that's going to be missing in the dialogue. So we want this dialogue to continue. So continue to holler at us. So everybody good? All hearts and minds clear?
Yes. I love that. I love ending it like that. I love that. All hearts and minds are clear.
All hearts and minds clear. We appreciate y'all for joining us, Street Academy Podcast. We out. Peace.
Peace. Peace up. A down down.
Down. Oh, I always about to end the meeting. That you know got their feet upon the neck of the haters, the game and the devil like came in. For all y'all who listening, for all y'all, we appreciate everybody who've been supporting, people who've been watching.
Sure.
I've been getting a lot of really good feedback Y'all been getting some feedback because people been hollering at
Just
y'all
a
about.
little.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm gonna edit that part out. I'm gonna edit that part out. We don't need to know.
I should have lied. I
You
should have
shoulda
lied. I should have been like, yeah.
I was gonna keep Amber's in, but when Jackie was like, no.
This is excellent. Throw the whole thing away.
Listen, people be telling me, they're like, you need to go to lying school because either you don't lie on time or when you do lie, it's obvious that it's a lie. So when y'all find out where the lying school is, sign me up so I can go and be better.
The way you said it too was so disappointing. It's just like,
I gotta cut that
like,
part out.
well, damn. Hey, don't even ask. Don't even, the whole part where you said I got a lot of good feedback. Don't even, nope, we don't even need to put that whole thing in there. Nope.
Yeah, just
Don't worry about it.
we appreciate y'all listening and
appreciate
skip
y'all
on to
listening.
Just skip on to the next part.
skip on to the next.
Cut it out. It's all good. It's all good.